Hi, welcome to College of Circles. I'm Jeff, and in this video, I'll be reviewing the Factions and Monsters bundle set from Critical Role and WizKids. This bundle set consists of 5 box sets and was originally released in June 2021 as Wave 1 of the Critical Role line of WizKids pre-painted miniatures. This is part 2, in which I'll be reviewing the Monsters of Wildemount box sets 1 and 2. And then I'll give my overall thoughts on the entire Factions and Monsters bundle set. I play Dungeons & Dragons and make extensive use of my miniatures. My reviews are based on how well the figures enhance gameplay at my table, how often they are likely to be used, and how much do they add to the game when used. I use a 10-point scale with 0 to 2 points in each of 5 categories. Those categories are details in the sculpt, quality of the paint application, how well the pose of the figure helps tell its story, how versatile the figure is, and how much the figure inspires me to want to create story and gameplay with it. Most figures will get a 1 in each category, with exceptional traits getting a 2, and traits that miss the mark getting a 0. At my table, I generally treat the figures literally. What the player sees in the figure is what the character sees in the game. Of course, these are all my subjective opinions, and yours may differ. If you like this content and want to see more, please like, subscribe, and share. With all of that said, here's the figure. We start with the Monsters of Wildemount box set 1. This set consists of 9 figures, including 4 large figures, and had an original MSRP of $59.99. Our first figure in this box set is the Arion Absorber. This large panther-type beast stands out for its bright colors and the large single eye on the tip of its tail. This creature is unique to Critical Role, so in my world of D&D, it's going to be a cat-loving beholder. The sculpt has really nice detail throughout, and while the paint application isn't exceptional, I don't see any flaws in it either. A cool figure, and I'm looking forward to homebrewing a stat line for it. The second figure is the stuff nightmares are made of. The Arion Nullifier has 14 mouths spread across its body, each with its own forked tongue. Another monster unique to Critical Role, and I'm enjoying coming up with how I would explain all of these mouths. I'm thinking the Nullifier will be abyssal, and this is how this demon reproduces, so that each mouth will become its own little Nullifier baby. There are some great details in the paint, as it looks like it's been scratched up in the legs, but unfortunately the face is a little weak in the paint. Overall, another standout monster I'm sure to use. Our third figure is the Arion Reverser. Now this figure suffers a little in comparison to other figures in this set. The sculpt in the face is really amazing, but this huge body lacks definition in the sculpt and paint job. Here's a small nitpick, but the feet are really small compared to the hands. This may have been an intentional design choice, as it does explain why the creature has to hunch over. If this was intentional, I'm not thrilled with it, as it makes the lower half look kind of silly, especially compared to the upper body and face. Up next is the Correspond Crawler. With a nice sculpt and pose, this little guy will be entering my game in the next week or so. I'm running a portion of a campaign on the astral plane with a custom group of Secton creatures, and I now have a Secton larva. These Sectons are about to get mentioned again, as I've already used 2 of these figures in this set in my home game. I love how Critical Role makes bold design choices. It gives me as a DM a lot to work with when setting up my worlds. The 5th figure is the Correspond Emissary, or in my game, a Secton Royal Guard. The wings have a great contrast between the translucent plastic and the black painted edges. The pose is dynamic, and the paint scheme is well designed and executed. Just a well-made, beautiful, and horrifying little monster. It's like Matt Mercer was predicting my game 3 years ago and gave me exactly the figures I would need just when I needed them. We have at number 6 the Correspond Seer, or for me, the Secton Clergy. Another standout paint job, and I love the tattered robes. This monstrosity looks intent and terrifying. The Sectons have their own temple in the city my players are in, and this figure showed up just before they had to go there. Perfect timing for a great mini to arrive. When I started buying miniatures, the first thing I did was assemble a zombie army, as I had just run a zombie horde encounter and wanted to be ready to do that again. I now have at least 20 unique zombies, and this one, the Zombie Husk, is easily my favorite. The sculpt and paint really show the skin pulled tight across his bones. His clothes are tattered, and the pose shows this is one of those fast zombies. The only flaw is that the figure is already separating from the base. We're finishing strong the last two figures, starting with the Nergalid. There is so much texture in the skin, the facial expression is spot on, and the paint is just about perfect. This creature could be any number of demons, devils, or maybe even an Elder Banderhob. Not quite a perfect score, but this figure is about as good as it gets. The final figure in this set is the Shadow Ghast, and we saved the best for last. There have been a few Ghast or Ghoul figures released over the years, but none better than this. I love this figure as soon as I open the box, but now that I'm looking at the 4K footage on a monitor, I see something I missed before. The entire body is sculpted in a translucent plastic, then almost completely painted over. If you look close, you can just see the light filtering through the shadowy body. I don't care what my criteria is, this figure is brilliant and gets a perfect 10. The Monsters of Wildemount Box Set 1 is the best collection of figures I have looked at to date. The amount of creativity in these figures from Critical Role, plus the exceptional execution from WizKids, is remarkable. And the fact that this originally cost $59.99 is an absolute steal. There are three figures, the Ghast, Zombie, and Nergalid, that look like other figures, but raise the bar so high, they all could be considered best in class. Now let's take a look at the Monsters of the Wildemount Box Set 2, and see if it's as strong as Box Set 1. This set consists of 7 figures, and also was listed at $59.99. We have figure number 1 up, and we are starting strong. The Gearkeeper construct is another exceptional design from Critical Role. In D&D, there is a group of constructs called Modrons from the plane of Mechanus. I've never once used a Modron, as they look kind of silly to me. There is nothing silly about this guy, and he looks like he takes the Modron's lunch money. This guy is a ball of swinging blades, and another one I can't wait to use. I'm thinking he can make 3 blade attacks on a single target, 1d8 plus 4 on a hit, and he'll have a Cuisinart action, where, on a recharge of 5 or 6, he can spin wildly, making 9 attacks on a single target. Our second figure is the Gloomstalker, and he gives me so much inspiration for storytelling. Remember when your party murked a young dragon when they were just level 4 or 5? Why wouldn't that dragon come back as an undead shadow dragon to haunt them? This is another nearly perfect figure, and like the Shadow Ghast, uses painted translucent plastic to really highlight the shadowy aspect of it. The third figure to look at is the Marrow Shallow Priest, and spoiler alert, might be the best miniature figure I've ever seen. The only negative is it being a large aquatic creature really limits what I can do with it. So even though I'm giving it a 9, the figure itself is perfection. The scales throughout the tail have bright highlights and dull sections, almost like it has algae growth on it. The harpoon has that molded rope hanging from it. Its pose is perfect, with a watery spell shooting from its hand. Looking at this figure got me genuinely excited, and reminded me of the first McFarlane Toys Spawn figures. They were so far ahead of their time when they first came out, it was like looking at toys for the first time, and that's how I feel looking at this figure. This is a work of art and shows just what can be done with a miniature figure. We have a slight drop-off with the fourth figure, but this one is still really well made. The Moorbounder looks like an Underdark saber-toothed cat, or maybe something from the Shadowfell or Feywild. The paint is really good, but nothing stands out with it. The sculpt is slightly better with all of the definition of the muscles. Not as strong as other figures in the set, but one I'll probably end up using more than most of the others. With our fifth figure, we have the Sahawagin Warlock of Uktoa. This one has a good sculpt and pose, and acceptable paint. In the right campaign or encounter, this figure will get used, but it's not one I'm chomping at the bit to break out. At number 6, we have the Sea Fury. The worst figure in this box set, and I'm still giving it a 6. The mold in the face is jacked up and almost cost this figure a point. Otherwise, it's a perfectly average figure until I get to look at it up close in 4K. And then we see one of the best details I've seen on any figure. Around the side and front of the torso is just a hint of a reflective or sparkling paint, which gives the figure the appearance of a sea foam around her. This is an exceptional choice of paint. The final figure in this set is the Swavane Basilisk, and the fourth to score a 9 in just 7 figures. I'm going to take a moment to pause the video so you can see the level of detail. That tongue is truly grotesque. The water is splashing perfectly. The entire figure looks menacing, and you have no idea just how much of it remains underwater. In my Fizzban's Treasury of Dragons video, I talked about the young sea serpent, and I really did not like how goofy that creature's face looked. Here we have the definitive Dungeons & Dragons sea serpent. Critical Role may call it a basilisk, but it's a serpent to me. My criteria for these reviews are based on the experience of using them at the game table. How do the players react when you pull a monster from behind the DM screen and place it on a map? Now, tokens can get the job done. Cut out cardboard or little blocks of wood can too. I've used all of them. But these little cheat tools will never get the reaction from your players that a fully realized and detailed figure will. I love it when I set down a figure and immediately a player picks it up to look over it. When your players place their 1-inch figure next to a 6-inch Nurglid, they really get a sense of what the character is up against. And this can't be replicated with tokens, virtual or physical. The Monsters of Wildemount box set 2 is the single best collection of monsters I have bought in my 3 years of collecting. The fact that it only cost $59.99 blows me away. Even the worst figure in this set had a detail so amazing I did a double take to make sure I wasn't imagining it. As for the Factions and Monsters bundle set, this is the best deal in the history of miniatures collecting. Original MSRP for all 5 boxes was $269.95 for an average figure cost of $6.43. The bundle is currently available at the time of this recording for just $125 or $298 per figure. If you can find the bundle, buy it immediately, even if you already have some of these box sets. If you can find the Monsters of Wildemount box sets separately, get them. They are too good to pass up. For the 3 Factions box sets, it's a little more hit and miss. I do believe they were going for quantity over quality, and I do know that the Critical Role character figures would improve over the next few waves. Now, I slept on these sets for 2 years. In the packaging, they didn't look as good as they do when you open them up and can see all those details up close. I'm certainly glad I have them now and hope you're able to find this bundle too. Once again, I'm Jeff. Thank you for watching this episode of College of Circles. This was one video I absolutely enjoyed making, and I hope you enjoyed watching it too.